It's just ideal, it really is. Tané Hunter is a cancer researcher and science communicator. He's the founder of Future Crunch, a group of scientists, artists, researchers, entrepreneurs that believe science and technology are creating a world that is more peaceful, connected, and more abundant. Their mission is to foster intelligent, optimistic thinking about the future and to empower people to contribute to a 21st century that works for everyone. How perfect. Please make him welcome.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Tané Hunter. I'm a cancer researcher and basically a biology nerd first and foremost, and I'm also the founder of Future Crunch.
That was a good voice check, loud and clear. So Expedition 58, we are ready to begin the welcoming ceremony.
So right now, as I speak, and as you sit here, there are 6 people living in space, and 2 astronauts, Christina Koch and Jessica Muir, just made history by doing the first all-female spacewalk. Now, millions of kids across the world will see these images and pictures, giving little girls the dream that one day they can be an astronaut too. Now, back here on planet Earth, they've discovered an ancient ruin on the outskirts of Jerusalem. It is older than Stonehenge and the ancient pyramids of Egypt. It's the oldest Stone Age site in the Middle East, and it's really upending most of what we know about the dawn of the agricultural civilization. Now in Norway, the first electric battery-powered cruise ship has just completed its maiden voyage through the Arctic, literally breaking ice because it paves the way for a future shipping industry that doesn't cost us the planet. Now in the suburbs of the City of Angels, someone has built a working flying titanium Iron Man suit. It's pretty cool, right? But you know, whatever. Tony Stark did it in a cave from scrap metal. R.I.P. Tony. Now, in Atlanta, KFC has debuted its plant-based, bioengineered, vegan, hippie fried chicken. Now, it sold out in 5 hours, and there were queues around the block. Turns out this chicken was worth crossing the road for. Sorry. It gets worse. In Vancouver, scientists have identified enzymes that come from gut bacteria, and when combined with human blood, turn the most common type A into the universal type O, giving us great hope that we can solve the global shortage of blood supplies. In Burkina Faso, geneticists have taken the DNA of the lovely funnel web spider, figured out what genes code for its venom, then spliced that together with the DNA of a parasitic fungus which kills malaria-carrying mosquitoes. The success rate in the country, 99%. Now, how is that for a story straight out of science fiction? Here's another one. In San Diego, they took pluripotent stem cells from our skin, then grew mini brains in a dish. And when you look at the brain waves from these mini brains, they're indistinguishable from a developing fetus. A 54-qubit quantum computer called Sycamore has just reached quantum supremacy, which means that it can do calculations in seconds that take our most advanced traditional supercomputers 10,000 years to compute. Now, does anyone know what quantum computing and sex have in common? I don't get either of them. More seriously, though, I'd like to point out that all of these have happened since August 15th, about 3.5 months ago. So the world is changing so fast. And the reason is because of science, which is our ability to make the seemingly magical real, to take what's in our imaginations and bring it to fruition. And because of the way that we share knowledge today, we stand on the shoulders of more and more giants, reaching ever higher heights. That's why things are changing so fast. Now, as the wise Carl Sagan once said, science isn't just a body of knowledge. It is a way of thinking. It's the best method that humanity has to make sense of the world around us. And unlike ideology, science allows for correction, so it constantly evolves. And given just a single piece of contrary evidence, it insists that we rethink everything that we once knew. And as scientists, when we get it wrong, we actually get excited, because it means we've learned something. That's why science is fucking amazing. It changes, science fans out there, it changes, those changes accrue rapidly, altering our world irrevocably. All right, so science, why is a hipster from Melbourne with terrible fashion sense here today talking to you, banging on about science and space travel and hippie fried chicken? Well, science, it's the bedrock. It is the foundation upon which all of the technologies that are changing the world are built on. So you don't need to be a scientist, but you need to understand the power of it. So I'm going to take you on a little tour through the frontiers of science and technology for the next 30 minutes or so, and show what it means for your industry, but more importantly for the world in which we all live, work, and play. Everyone ready? Yes. All right. To tell you that story, I've got to go back. Got to go way, way back to the dusty, distant footnotes of history, back to the year 1995. Yeah. It's a gorgeous sound, isn't it? You can pump the volume a little bit. All right, who remembers that beautiful sound? Well, it was beautiful to me because in 1995, I was living in rural New Mexico, and I was some sort of weird jock-nerd hybrid. Now, I played basketball for the First Baptist Church Warriors, and I had heaps of people to talk about b-ball with, but no one to discuss the Lord of the Rings with. And then I heard that beautiful sound, I got the internet, and I discovered chat rooms where I could endlessly nerd out whether Tom Bombadil was a crucial part of the Fellowship of the Ring, really embodying the spirit guide of Middle-earth, was one of Tolkien's biggest mistakes. LOTR nerds will know what I'm talking about. Now, I thought I was pretty lucky, because back in 1995, there were 16 million people online. Fast forward to today, now, there are 5.5 billion people on the planet over the age of 14. How many have phones? 5 billion. And 4 billion have smartphones. That means that more than 3/4 of adults on planet Earth have access to the greatest information resource humanity has ever known, the internet, and it's at our fingertips. Never before has humanity adopted a tool, the smartphone, at such speed and at such scale. And not only did we fail to imagine what the internet would be when we first got it, we're still often oblivious to the miracle that it has become. For example, China might be the first cashless society. Last year, they did $40 trillion in digital and mobile payments. That's 32 times the GDP of Australia. And the most popular marketplace, Alibaba, created 40 million jobs, most of them for women. So it's changing the global economy worldwide. For example, let's talk about dating. In the country of my birth, the United States, heterosexual couples usually met at church or through mutual friends. Not anymore, though. Since 2018, most heterosexual couples say they meet online. And that's been true for the LGBTQIA+ community for years. Now, because we're all connected and we have all these devices, some people are pretty excited about it. And a lot of people are playing games. So the current eSports champions, they're the new rock stars. They fill stadiums. For example, the most recent League of Legends tournament had more unique viewers than the Super Bowl. And 4 of the 10 most highly valued sports prizes are now in eSports. So as we all connect and stream and tweet, look at cat videos, download, do mobile payments, and play games, we're creating trillions of terabytes of data. Not only do data flows allow for the better movement of goods, services, finance, and people, they have value in their own right. So in fact, since 2015, data flows, zeros and ones, have accounted for more global GDP growth than the world's entire physical goods trade. Data is the new oil. That's not some Silicon Valley soundbite. It is an economic reality. Now, when we talk about data, a lot of people think it's in the Wi-Fi, in the cloud, or sitting in servers. But the vast majority of it is actually traveling underneath the waves at the bottom of our oceans. Just as the industrial giants of last century spent billions of dollars installing piping underneath the oceans to move around their most valuable resource, oil. Today's tech giants are spending billions of dollars laying cabling across the oceans to move around their most valuable resource, data. And don't forget to look up. If you're on the right place on planet Earth in May this year, you'd have seen this constellation of 50 satellites being launched from Starlink, from the world's largest private space company. So by next year, they plan to have 1,000, and by mid-2020s, they want to have 12,000 satellites in 3 orbitals. And the idea is to bring high-speed connectivity and access to humanity's greatest source of knowledge, the internet, to people's fingertips, cheap and highly accessible to every person on the planet. Now, that's why we're moving into this world of digital globalization, one that is, providing opportunities for hundreds of countries, for millions of small businesses, organizations, startups, schools, and to billions of our fellow human beings who just haven't had access to the global economy before. Now, the good thing about data is, unlike oil, a centralized, expensive, hoardable resource, data is a lot cheaper and a lot more accessible. Now, as a data scientist, a quick caveat. Having data by itself is not enough. You hear terms like raw data. That is both an oxymoron and a terrible idea. You can't just accrue data, put it in your servers, and sit on it. To the contrary, it must be cooked, refined, and understood with care. So crude oil by itself is pretty useless. It needs to be refined. So the way that we do that with data is with code. Code is the oil refinery of data. It allows you to refine it, distribute it, and ultimately give it some value. And that's why code is so powerful. That's why the world's top companies, most valued companies in the world, are completely built on code. So if you go, and code has these properties where if you create one, it costs you the same whether you make 1 million. You can copy and paste it as many times as you want. Because of global connectivity, you press send and it goes anywhere at the speed of light. You don't have to worry about supply chain management, pissing contests between China and the US, egos of our global leaders, shipping cost, 0. And also the code updates all the time. Many of your phones are updating as I speak. Think about it like having a car. My first one was a 1994 Honda Civic. If it improved the way code does over these past few decades, I'd end up today with something like a Ferrari, or if I'm really cool, a Tesla. So that's why code is at the center of the business model for the world's most highly valued companies. 2009, there was 1. Fast forward 10 years, 7 of the top 10 most highly valued companies are built completely on code. There are 3 finance companies in there, but their value doesn't come from dollar bills and gold stored in vaults. It comes from the millions of lines of code that allow them to do transactions simultaneously across the planet. That's why fundamentally we're moving from an economy that was built on moving around atoms, physical stuff, to one that's increasingly built on data, bits and bytes, the zeros and ones. And that's why digital technology, it used to be a back office function, the fax machine. Then IT became a sector on its own. Today, digital technology is a layer over absolutely everything. And just as we're getting our heads around digital, don't get too comfortable, because we're moving into the age of cognition, because the code itself is evolving. We're in the midst of an artificial intelligence explosion. We're teaching our machines to see, to read, to write, to listen, to speak, to react dynamically within our environment, and most importantly, analyze and predict in ways we never thought possible. Now, in cancer research, my field, it's a godsend. I write machine learning AI algorithms to read through DNA, figure out what particular changes are causing cancer, and then we follow patients through treatment to make sure we're doing the right thing. This cognitive code has given us an incredible new tool in a fight against a devastating disease. But it's not just fancy research institutes and hospitals. Here is an image recognition app backed by AI that you can download on your phone. It has a 97% accuracy rate at detecting whether you have skin cancer. Now, to put that into perspective, dermatologists get it right around 93% of the time. Your average GP, about 60% of the time. In a country like Australia and New Zealand with the highest skin cancer rates in the world, and early detection is your best method for survival, probably a pretty handy tool. You can even have fun with it. Get together with your partner and check out all your blemishes. And when you do, it gives you low, medium, and high risk. And if you get a high risk, it goes to 5 human beings, 5 specialists to give you advice on how to move forward. The way I like to think about this technology is kind of like the sniffer dogs in the airport. If it finds a bit of produce you're not supposed to have or drugs, and the dog's alerted, the dog is not the prosecutor. It goes to a human being to decide what to do. Now, one of my favorite examples, because AI and machine learning is all about picking up patterns in data. So they looked at breast tissue, patterns in breast tissue, and now they can pick up breast cancer 4 years before doctors can. Using similar algorithms in our hospitals, we can diagnose Alzheimer's up to 9 years before clinicians. And we're even looking at brain scans of 6-month-olds to determine whether the kid is likely to have autism. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. Now, does anyone have, well, besides your students, young kids in their life that you read bedtime stories to? Well, imagine if you could add a little bit of magic to bedtime with an algorithm that could follow along where you read and augment it, bring it to life with some lighting and sound effects. Check out what Novel Effect has done.
It was a cold, dark night as the campers retired. The moon glowed. A wolf howled. There was crackling from the fire. The bushes rustled, making a sound. Thump, thump, thump. They hear footsteps on the ground. There was a flash of lightning, a crack of thunder. A shadowy figure was approaching their sleep.
So now we have totally new ways of traumatizing our kids. But this technology can be used in the classroom. This is a free translation app that can follow along while you're speaking in the classroom and can be used on most every web browser. We'll check it out.
So on the screen, as part of this add-in, it actually shows a QR code that people can use to join from their own devices. And so what happens is, while I'm talking, they will see the transcripts on the screen, if I choose to have them on the screen, and then they will also see the transcripts on their local devices in the language of choice.
And so when I talk, you hear the Mandarin actually being spoken as I talk.
所以当我说话的时候，你会听到我说话的普通话。
I can speak while showing a PowerPoint deck, and it will show the transcripts on the screen, and at the same time, it will allow people to join from their own devices.
Cool. It can also help out with the daily tasks, like, for example, grading. So in China, they've released AI in 60,000 schools and have a sample size of 120 million children. And it helps teachers grade, in particular, essays and other assignments, and also deals with the peer-to-peer inconsistencies when you have, I don't know, I used to grade my spelling test, you pass it around, and if I got my friends, we definitely got straight A's. But so this technology can really help out, also reducing cheating, but also removing some of your daily tasks. Oh, by the way, its accuracy rate is about 94% difference what the teachers would do. So that's pretty good, and it's just getting started. Of course, big business is all over this. Google, the largest private owner of wind farms on the planet, because they want to be completely carbon neutral by 2050, released one of their favorite algorithms, DeepMind, to manage energy efficiency from their turbines. So they back-tested historical weather data, and they improved the energy efficiency by 20%, saving them millions of dollars. And it's important here to remember the hardware didn't change. The wind turbines didn't get bigger, the blades didn't get longer. What changed was the software. That's why code is so powerful. Let's go a little closer to home. So Sydney Water has cameras in their pipes all over the city to check for leaks and obstructions like roots. They have great coverage. The problem is, due to resourcing, they could only ever look at about 1% to 2% of the footage. But also, can you imagine your job looking down a pipe with water flowing? Pretty boring and mind-numbing. So then 2 entrepreneurs decided that was a pretty stupid idea, so they employed image recognition on all the cameras, and now it can do all the cameras at the same time, and it has a 99.79% accuracy rate, which is better than a human being, and of course, all of them at the same time. Even some of the world's oldest, conservative, and stuffiest organizations are getting on board. Slaughter & May, one of the oldest and most prestigious law firms on the planet, is now using AI to help with acquisitions and mergers. It just looks at account histories and holdings and searches for errors for regulatory stuff. Again, not that exciting. It saved them thousands of human hours, no impact on headcount, no one was fired, and the lead on the project, Sally Woke, says it cut out the work our people find the least interesting. It doesn't cut out analyzing the relevant details which the clients actually care about. There's a little clue on how AI and machine learning actually roll out across industry. So what does that mean for the future of jobs, right? I already showed you that a machine is better than a human being at diagnosing medical imaging. Well, I like what Professor Curtis Langweltz from Stanford University, one of the best radiologists in the world, had to say when asked about the threat of AI and the robots coming to steal all our jobs. Artificial intelligence won't replace radiologists. Those radiologists who use artificial intelligence replace the ones that don't. And just replace radiologists with any skill or industry you care to choose. It's not the machines versus the humans, it's the machines and the humans. It's not about replacing your skills, it's about augmenting them. It's like a symphony between human and machine, because we need both. And that's why it's so important that we reimagine our relationship with technology, because if we engage in it, it can greatly expand our capacity and allow us to do things we previously thought were impossible. But also, I dabble in AI and machine learning. Still creeps me out, right? Who's a little terrified about artificial intelligence? Anyone? Yeah, it's creepy. We have police forces around the world getting facial recognition goggles. Got the social rating system in China. They've just outlawed facial recognition in San Francisco. It's going to be a bit of a battle about this. It's something out of the worst nightmares of Orwell and Huxley, right? We've seen Black Mirror. We know where this ends. But did you hear about what happened in Delhi, India, where police forces got a hold of this technology? First thing they did, they went out to all the city's orphanages and took photos of the kids, matched it with a database of all the city's missing children, and in 4 days tracked down 3,000 missing children, reuniting many of them their families for the first time in years. It's not the technology itself, it's what we do with the technology that matters. And that's why it's so important as teachers to set the future kids' intentions right and get them thinking about this stuff, because it's so powerful. One of my favorite examples and applications is language translation. So this is one of the first prototypes of an in-ear instant translation device called Pilot. So if you have these devices, you can talk to anyone in almost any language in real time. They're even adding some Aboriginal or Australian Indigenous languages to this technology. So who are Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy fans? Yeah, we got a few. The real-life Babelfish. Now, as with many of humanity's great stories, this one begins with love.
I came up with the idea for a translator when I met a French girl. That's really where the story starts. I was on vacation and I met this girl. It was difficult for us to communicate because she didn't speak English very well. And even when we tried to find a solution, like using some translation app to communicate, it was horrible. Elodie, put this in your ear.
Je mets ça dans mon oreille?
Yeah, put it in your ear.
Comme ça?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me in French?
Pouvez-vous me entendre en français?
Ah oui! Mais je peux t'entendre parler français? Mais c'est
Yes,
génial.
I can hear you talk French.
Attends, comment ça se fait? C'est
But this is awesome. But how you do it?
Yeah, it's translating. It's translating.
So now we have totally new ways of sleeping with each other. You can obviously see the application in your profession as well. But so this is an early prototype. We've got one at the office. It's kind of clunky, but keep in mind what the smartphone and iPhone were like 10 years ago. I don't think these types of devices are going to be any different in their trajectory. But since the dawn of time, our inability to understand and connect with one another has been a key impediment to human progress. But with the lifetimes of everyone in this room, those barriers are going to disappear. And when I say everyone, I really do mean everyone.
Hello. My name is Thomas. And this is Navid. We are inventors in the Lemelson MIT Student Prize Competition.
All right, enough about algorithms and code. Let's talk about where the software meets the hardware. Things change quick. Thanks to the smartphone wars of the last decade, cameras, sensors, chips, electronics are now super cheap. Thanks to advancements in artificial intelligence and material sciences, now our robots are being able to complete more and more complex tasks. Our machines are moving from the mechanical to the digital, now to the cognitive. And we are witnessing a Cambrian explosion in the realm of robotics. We're using drones to autonomously clean and monitor our wind turbines. They're planting forests and fighting fires, changing the way we produce food. We have driverless tractors that cruise the rows of our orchards. We have robots that can use image recognition to identify what a ripe tomato is, and then gently pluck it from the vine. On the outskirts of our cities and the old industrial areas, we're building vertical farming and precision agriculture, where robots water, replant, and monitor food. It's redefining our supply chains and our warehouses, where we have robots that can collect products and ship them to millions of people around the world. Robots are taking many of the jobs that are boring, backbreaking, and mind-numbingly repetitive. We have new types of robotics, soft robotics, which emulate movement in nature. We're strapping the robots to ourselves, augmenting our strength, reducing injury, and allowing us to do more with less. They're even going inside of us, allowing us to see things that we couldn't previously, and helping heal ourselves. Now, our robots are also getting more dexterous. They can identify an object in a box, throw it into another box. Pretty exciting, right? Well, unlike the human beings, the robot never misses. But this technology can actually have profound implications. How about dealing with waste management, the plastic crisis? Again, it can identify, using image recognition, what recyclable is what, and then sort it at speed and at scale. Our robots are actually getting safer as well, thanks to the advancements in sensors. They can identify human harm and prevent it. So they're entering the workforce. We're working cooperatively with them. Robots are working with us in new and intuitive ways. They can emulate our movements. So perhaps a better term for robot could be Cobot. Making robots that look like us, work like us, go for a jog in the forest like us, see an obstacle, jump over the log. I'm willing to bet most people could do that, but who can do this? Those are the only two things that I can do in that entire sequence. We're even making robots that are outperforming our beloved pets. Four-legged moonwalk, anyone? I wish I looked that good on the dance floor. But enough of that crappy pop music. Anyone like music with some real soul? Any heavy metal fans out there? Any Motorhead fans? Yes. Well, here's one of my new favorite bands called Compressor Head. A little bit of metal by metal. Okay, so the robot apocalypse is definitely upon us, right? Well, Hollywood and the media is definitely saying the robot apocalypse is here. We've got Amazon stores with no checkout lines. What's going to happen to the grocers and the checkout clerks? We've got robots that can cruise the aisles of our warehouses and department stores, do stock take at the same time they clean the floor. We have robots that can flip hamburgers. This is Flippy. Now, my first job in high school was flipping hamburgers. Now, imagine future youth not having this beautiful experience of flipping hamburgers over a hot stove for minimum wage. I mean, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is warning of a wage and employment death spiral. That's the IMF. My partner, she's a nurse. We've got robot nurses. Is she going to be out of job? Are we all going to be superfluous sacks of meat in this world of metal and machine? Yeah, well, there are robot nurses. This is Moxie. She works in Dallas General Hospital. She helps with patient check-in and check-out. She brings linen and water to the rooms, make sure they're clean, and also make sure the right medication is delivered. Now, this took up about 20% of nurses' job. And you know what? Nurses love Moxie because it takes up the tasks that they found the least interesting. They signed up to help people. These highly skilled professionals can now do the job they want to. And the patients love her too. For 1 hour a day, Moxie cruises the aisles and flashes love hearts. Good selfie time. All right, so what's actually happening with the robot apocalypse? Are the robots coming to steal all our jobs? No, what robots are doing are taking over certain tasks within our jobs. And we have a robot rule of thumb for this. So when you're thinking about how automation and robotics will affect any industry, think about it in the terms of whether it's historical, predictable, and what the cost per error is. Let me give you an example. Take the task of vacuum cleaning and cleaning the floor. Is it historical? Yeah, since we've had homes, abodes, and rooms, we've needed to keep them clean. Is it predictable? Yeah, it needs to be done regularly. It's confined within 4 walls. Yeah, highly predictable. What's the cost per error? Well, maybe a bit of dirt on the floor, knocks over a vase, scares the cat. Low cost of error. So this is a highly automatable task. That's why there are already millions and millions of autonomous vacuum cleaners across the planet. Let's take something a little more difficult and complex, the task of driving. Well, is it historical? Yeah, since we invented the automobile over a century ago, they've become an increasing part of our daily lives. They've redefined our cities and eventually transformed the entire planet. Is it predictable? I would argue 100% yes. Driverless cars have already clocked over 80 million kilometers on roads around the world. They're on the streets in 80 of our cities. And 80 companies in the United States alone are trialing this technology and have permits for it. The data is super clear. Driverless cars are 15 times safer than human beings, superfluous sacks of meat behind the wheel, especially those texting while driving. What's the cost per error? Well, human injury and potential loss of life. According to humans, the highest cost there is. So while the technology is here and ready to go, it's not about an innovation in technology. This is much more of a cultural and regulatory issue. Societies need to become comfortable with this technology in order to adopt it, and regulators need to get on board. And that's why While this is an automatable task, it's not going to roll out at speed, at scale, anytime soon. What about something a little closer to home? How about being school administrator or a teacher? Is it historical? Yeah, of course. We've always had teachers since the dawn of humanity. Is it predictable? I don't know. I'm not a teacher. But I'm sure many tasks in your job daily are pretty predictable. I know I get up, have coffee before I do anything, then I do email, admin stuff. A lot of what I do is predictable on a day-to-day basis. But there are many tasks in your job that are highly unpredictable. You're dealing with your peers and also students who all have different needs and wants. So a lot of it is highly unpredictable. What's the cost per error? Well, completely screwing up future generations, so pretty high. I mean, most of the time it's not, but except when it is. And that's why the job of a teacher and as school administrators, your job isn't going anywhere. Tasks within it will be automated, and it will change the nature of work in every industry. But for the vast majority of jobs out there, it's not going to change it. That's why people need to engage and adopt with this technology. Any commercial airline pilots in the crowd? All right, well, they fly for about 7 minutes a day, or every flight about 7 minutes. The rest of it is completely automated. Yet, because flying is cheaper, safer, more efficient, more people demand it, and now there's a global shortage of commercial airline pilots worldwide. And it also provides new jobs. Imagine the Wright brothers when they first invented the flying robot, the airplane, that it would lead to jobs like airline steward, air traffic controller, the security guards who love to frisk you down when you go through, and the bomb testers. Or that massive concrete infrastructures would pop up all over the planet and shepherd millions of human beings around the world each year. All right, so I'd like to leave you one thought for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans out there. Douglas Adams wasn't only an incredible science fiction writer, he also had great insight into human nature and our relationship with technology. He said that everything that's already in the world when you're born is just normal. Then anything that's invented between 15 and 35, is exciting, you're going to get a career in it, and everything after 35 is just against the natural order of things, and I don't want any part to do with it. So it's very important to continue to open your mind, to adapt to this change, because it's here, whether we want it or not. But there's also incredible opportunities that are out there. And finally, counterintuitively, in a world where technology is a layer over everything, it's the human skills that matter the most. The stuff that machines can't do. The things that computers are best at, calculation, precision, and objectivity, are very distinct from what makes us truly human. The purpose, passion, understanding. Our storytelling ability, our ability to lead, through creatively. Because you know what? All those human skills lead to better ways of working together. And in this emerging world and economy, collaboration trumps genius. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. What a great start to the day. Thank you very much indeed.